In June 2013, a man sat on the edge of a hotel bed in Hong Kong, nervous, exhausted, and about to change the course of history. His name was Edward Snowden, and he was about to go public as the source behind one of the biggest intelligence leaks the world had ever seen. The camera was rolling. Facing him were journalist Glenn Greenwald and filmmaker Laura Poitras. Snowden wore a simple grey shirt. His voice was calm, deliberate. But what he was saying was anything but ordinary. He began by explaining who he was.
My name's Ed Snowden. I'm 29 years old. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton as an infrastructure analyst for NSA in Hawaii.
A systems administrator, formerly with the CIA, and at that time working as a contractor for the NSA. But what he had seen inside the US intelligence community disturbed him deeply. The agency, he said, had built an architecture of surveillance so vast, so invasive, that it effectively allowed the government to collect the communications of nearly everyone, not just in America, but around the world. The programs he exposed had names like PRISM, X-Keyscore, and Boundless Informant. These weren't just tools to target terrorists. They were tools to collect data from ordinary citizens. PRISM, he explained, allowed the NSA to access emails, video chats, and documents directly from the servers of companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. And it wasn't just metadata. In many cases, it was the full content of communications.
NSA and the intelligence community in general is focused on getting intelligence wherever it can by any means possible that it believes on the grounds of sort of a self-certification that they serve the national interest. Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically. And to do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone.
In the interview, Snowden didn't hide. He didn't scramble his voice or blur his face. He showed who he was, clearly and openly. He said, "I have no intention of hiding who I am because I know I have done nothing wrong." For him, this wasn't about fame. It was about principle. He believed the public had the right to know what was being done in their name, and to them.
This is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
When asked about the risk, Snowden didn't flinch. He knew the government would come after him. He knew he could be jailed or worse. But he said,
yeah, I could be, rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of their third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations, or they could pay off the triads, or any of their agents or assets. We've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be.
He talked about how surveillance had moved beyond just targeting individuals under suspicion. He claimed that the NSA was collecting everything. Phone calls, internet histories, messages, all swept up in vast data centers, stored indefinitely, searchable without a warrant. The idea of probable cause, he said, was gone. And then came one of the most powerful moments in the interview. Snowden looked into the camera and said,
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded, and the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with.
That moment, that sentence, changed how millions of people viewed their relationship with technology. Snowden wasn't talking about some far-off dystopia. He was describing the world as it existed in that very moment. And few people had realized it. Throughout the interview, his tone was careful, measured. He wasn't erratic. He wasn't paranoid. He spoke like someone who had weighed the consequences and decided that the cost of silence was greater than the cost of action. He said he hoped the public would decide how much surveillance was too much. He didn't want to bring the system down. He wanted to spark a debate, a global one, about privacy, transparency, and power. And by the time that interview ended, the debate had already begun.